Take my coat gently from her shoulder. Again, the intuitive, almost the mind reading or soul reading ability of David to transform the lyric and the melody into these wonderful string lines. And I'm sure you'll talk about the Sinatra flutes, but there's a likeness to this which mirrors the lyric poetry in songs like Carrick Fergus.
But the sea is wide, and I cannot swim.
She moved through the fair.
And she went away from me.
How did you intuit that? How did you create those counter melodies so it feels timeless?
What can I say, man? I'm a genius. No, I'm kidding. No, I think, what it sort of goes back to this, taking something old and refreshing it, So yeah, back in the 1950s and 60s, there was a very popular, I guess, arranging technique, but they just called it happy flutes. And it was, 2, 3, or 4 flutes, and they would harmonize with each other. And arrangers would write these beautiful lines that would go in, between whatever Frank was saying, and then he would say it, doodly-doodly-doo, and then he would say something else. Hey, we should. I just made that up. We should do that. It'll make a good YouTube short. Anyway, the point is, like I wanted to kind of, do what we always do, which is like look at some of the great, songwriters and arrangements from the past, but apply it to like this, very folk setting. So let's see here. Now for the happy flutes, happy flutes are awesome. Here, I can just solo these for you. So that was the first one that I actually wrote for this track, and then you can hear how the vocals interact with that. The other way around, I should say. And then we had to get the strings to kind of fit, and also, there's some building up here, like what we always do, Also, just a point, like Pascal very often leaves these spaces, specifically because he knows I'm gonna like go to town on it.
Yeah, you've got to leave space for the call and response. The counter melody is blowing colder. Nevermore will I hold her.
Another one of those happy flute moments. And then, as far as arranging goes, like we, it's like what we always do on our records. We start off with, rhythm section, just simple rhythm section, right?
Where wild rivers run.
And so then, by the time we get up to the chorus, we're adding in, like a little bit more drums, and then we're bringing the strings in,
Things I should have told her. Take my coat gently from her shoulder. Sailing on the seven seas.
And then you hear that, the strings are getting a little more intense. Wow, somebody's drilling something somewhere. Anyway, but then for example, like I'm a conga player, so I've basically sampled my conga drums, in a million different ways, so I can basically sort of feed them in anywhere. So but the fact that these come in on the next verse,
sailing on the seven seas, I felt her in the breeze, the flower.
Anyway, and of course, Pascal's always up front, and I mean, that's it, I guess. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, well, I especially love the Countermelodies. These
Yeah.
songs are such a collaboration. So I'll have a vocal melody and a direction, and David will answer it, come up with a counter melody. Some of the string lines and the flutes are just magnificent on this. They're heartbreaking. In verse
Oh,
3, you've got a sudden diminuendo and just the string, and and that's how the guy feels. He's devastated. He's lost her. He
right.
blew it. That's it. He's done. It's done.
I think, this is something I talk about a lot, do you guys hear that, by the way?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
don't worry. I will try to remove it in post.
Excuse me, we're trying to do a podcast down here. Would you mind not drilling? Sorry. Anyway, um, but yeah, it's something I talk about a lot with my apprentices, I guess, or my proteges. I don't know, what to call our band, but because they're more than just a band, right? Because they get involved in producing. And I delegate specific tasks, either in production or arrangement, to them. And then I teach them my methods, and I show them the ways, um, and I give them a copy of my mixing template, which, that's what this is right here, by the way. All this stuff here in the background. Oops. So this would be my mixing template. And so that, like everything's kind of set up, ready to go. But I guess, the point is that, the counter melodies, and I'm always talking, to the band about the idea of contour and shape. These are very, very important things. So when Pascal delivers, because he has his own contours, he has his own way of singing, and he has his own flow, his own rhythm. And so, I'm always talking to the band, and obviously myself as well, what's the best way to complement? And so sometimes I guess, like, you can sort of think of it like, again, this idea of a river, right? So Pascal's flowing the water, and we're just sort of like trying to flow with him, And so yeah, like I'm very, very, very careful, about what kind of melodies I choose, I mean, it's a little bit of composing, but it's composing on top of these incredible chord progressions that Pascal's doing. And so that informs everybody in the band. It's what chords is he coming up with, right? And then because, like, I can't do da 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 da, unless he writes the chord progression that he writes. So, and that's the beauty of it. And if I can just quickly point out to anybody who's an artist or anybody who's listening, you know, um, Igor Stravinsky, great Russian composer, um, he talked about the idea of limitations, that actually the worst thing, and I'm paraphrasing him, but one of the worst things for an artist is just an empty canvas. You need specific restrictions. And this is part of the game that Pascal and I play, right? Like with my song titles that I throw at him, and then he's like, oh, because, I often come up with these clever little song titles, but artists need limitations, right? So the limitations that are being set here, the boundaries, if you will, are the flowing river of Pascal's chords, because we can't do anything else. But that when you are restricted, it spawns creativity. And Stravinsky wrote this, like, very long way of saying it, but he said that the more limitations I place upon myself, the more creative I become. It's a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful, and I'm paraphrasing him, by the way. He said it in in a much more eloquent and beautiful and
Mm.
poetic way. But that's essentially the meaning. Yeah.